Before Tyler Perry became Tyler Perry, he was broke. Genuinely broke. His first play had closed after one terrible night in Atlanta. He was living in his car, showering at rest stops, eating one meal a day. The debt collectors knew his name before the world did. He was born Emmett Perry Jr. in New Orleans on a September morning, the youngest of 3 children. His father was a carpenter who believed discipline meant pain. His mother, Willie, held the house together with quiet grace and church hymns. The poverty was grinding, but it wasn't the worst thing Emmett would inherit. His father's rages were a language Emmett learned early, the fist before the word. Beatings came for small offenses, a torn shirt, a question asked wrong. By childhood, he'd learned to disappear into himself, into stories, into the characters he could become when no one was watching. The wounds ran deeper than skin. Theater became his escape. In high school, he discovered he could step into someone else's skin and leave his own pain backstage. He performed in school productions, and for those hours under the lights, Emmett Perry wasn't anybody's beaten son. He was somebody else entirely. The applause felt like survival. At Jackson State University, he studied English and drama, but his real education happened in those auditoriums. He wrote his first scripts, Rough, Hungry Things, and learned that storytelling could be a weapon against silence. He was building something, though he didn't know its shape yet. The need to tell stories was becoming unstoppable. After college, he moved to Atlanta with nothing but a suitcase and a burning need to make it in theater. He took jobs nobody wanted, security guard, phone operator, anything to pay rent and fund his dream. The rejection started immediately. Theater companies turned him away. Agents didn't return calls. But he kept writing. He was haunted by a woman's voice that kept appearing in his head. He didn't know who she was yet. In 1989, he spent his own money to stage a play he called I Know I Had a Premonition. He rented a theater, cast himself, and opened the doors. 6 people showed up the first night. He lost money he couldn't afford to lose. That play nearly destroyed him. He owed $12,000, a fortune when you're poor. Creditors called. He had no income to speak of. He was sleeping in his car between odd jobs, watching his dream crumble in real time. Most people quit here. Everything in him wanted to. But something kept him moving. Then it happened. The voice became a face, a character, a full-bodied woman named Medea. She was loud, brash, unfiltered, and she wouldn't leave him alone. She was everything his pain had made him, a witness to suffering who refused to be destroyed by it. He began writing her story obsessively. Medea wanted out of his head and onto a stage. In 1999, he wrote and produced Medea's Family Reunion, a play about a grandmother who spoke truths nobody else would say. He was older now, still broke, but somehow more dangerous in his conviction. He took the play to churches, community centers, anywhere that would have him. Slowly, word spread. People came, they came back, they brought family. By 2000, Medea's Family Reunion was playing in theaters across the South. He was finally making money, not much, but real money. More importantly, audiences recognized themselves in Medea's voice. She was speaking to something deep and true that had been silent. The debt wasn't paid off yet, but the hunger was being answered. Something was breaking open. In 2005, Oprah Winfrey saw his play and called him directly. She didn't ask permission. She told him he needed to do this on television. He knew Oprah. Everyone knew Oprah. She was offering him an elevator when he'd been climbing stairs his whole life. The Haves and the Have-Notses was born from that conversation, a television series that would change everything. He didn't have money for a real studio, so he built one himself. He bought a defunct soundstage in Atlanta and transformed it into a production facility. He was writing, producing, directing, often acting in his own shows, everything. The man who'd slept in his car was now building empires, by his own hands, with his own vision. No one was directing him anymore. His shows dominated cable television. House of Pain, The Haves and the Have-Nots, If Loving You Is Wrong, hit after hit. He created a universe of stories for black audiences that television had largely ignored. The money came, finally. Real money. Then serious money. By 2020, he'd become the first African American to own a major film studio outright. Medea, the woman who lived in his head when he had nothing, became a global phenomenon. He played her in films, on stages, in living rooms across America. She was his constant, his alter ego, his unfiltered truth-teller. She'd saved his life by giving him purpose when poverty and rejection would have buried him. That character was more than entertainment. She was resurrection. The kid who learned to disappear into stories to survive his father's rage became the man who told stories that saved other people. His studio employed hundreds. His shows reached millions. He owned his own destiny, something his father's fists had tried to steal. The car became a mansion. The debt became a legacy. The silence became a roar. Tyler Perry never forgot the car. He never forgot the 6 empty seats. He built something not just for himself, but for the stories that had no voice. The black narratives, the working class struggles, the truths that mainstream media had turned away from. He became the studio he'd been denied. He became the stage. He became the proof that pain, if you refuse to let it destroy you, can become your greatest power. In 2022, Forbes named him a billionaire, a title that meant nothing compared to the freedom it represented. He'd earned the right to tell any story he wanted, exactly how he wanted to tell it. The man who slept in his car now owned the studio lot. The boy who needed to disappear had created a world where millions could find themselves. His journey wasn't about becoming rich, it was about refusing to disappear.